Is everyone a panelist, Deb? You're being made a panelist. I think you're going to be made a panelist, which means that you're going to be able to appear on the video if you want to, or to talk if you want to. So that may take, we'll wait a minute or two while David gets that happening. So let's just be aware. Everybody will be muted. You can You can unmute yourself, but just be, consider that you're in a room of people you don't know that well, so you don't want to talk over people. We have one person joining on video and another person joining. Come on, you guys, it's fun to be on video. See each other. All right, so we can get started. I'm just going to start with a very short moment of prayer, so please join me in that if you feel so inclined. And just close your eyes. What we want to do is we are connecting to ourselves. I usually call this a connection. We're connecting to ourselves, our deeper selves. On the level of the deepest self, we're already all connected anyway. So the more we connect with our deeper selves, the more we'll be connected with one another. And also the more we'll be connected with Source, with God, with Hashem. And with the flow of the new energy and light that's continuously coming to the world. Authentic Kabbalah tells us, Hasidus tells us, that the world wasn't created once and left on its own to just loosely be supervised from above, but it's actually, there's nothing here. The core truth of the world, Ein Od Milvado, there's nothing here but the one. So what is all this? It's a little bit complicated, as my students probably are realizing, but all of this is both real and not real. And without getting deeply into that, what is one of the main things that's happening right now that we are being called upon, that's being called out from us, is a deeper awareness of the underneath the surface. So our predictable lives are being shaken up, personally and globally. None of us ever expected anything like this. It just keeps getting more crazy, it seems like. And there's a purpose for that. And the purpose is to shake off the shell, superficial, the external, so that the inner can connect and emerge. Okay, so with that, just adding a prayer that we all be assisted both on the call and after the call, on the call also including the replay, but also after the call into our individual lives, that the energy that is available, the potential that's available, the God that's available, the divine power that's available be integrated and absorbed by each one of us in the way that's perfect for us, and that will move us forward in the ways that are in accordance with the divine plan, and also in ways that are very, very wonderful and healthy and happy and prosperous for each of us. We want to be pulled forward, like by the carrot, not pushed forward by the stick. So I think that's a choice that we all have at this time. Connect out of your free will. Change yourself willingly in accordance with your deeper purpose, and align yourself with what's happening, and the shaking will slow way down. It's going to be more like floating a lot of the time. Okay, so this is a Q&A, and I said no holds barred. So I'm going to be, if you want, you can either, if you're on the phone or if you're on video, you can just, raise your hand, talk as long as no one else is talking, and I'm going to alternate by looking. You can also type in the chat. I did receive a few questions by email. So whatever you want. What questions do you have? after I did the program 2 weeks ago, I realized that, we talked about making a shift to this deeper reality, but we didn't really talk so much about how. And also just chance to, throw out whatever you've got going on. Who's going to be first? Remember, you have to take yourself off mute. Everybody shy?
Okay, I'll talk. It's Chana
Okay.
Delfiner. How are you?
Hi. Hi, Chana.
Hi, so nice to be with you. I have a question. I don't know if it's a question, it's something. I'm kind of torn because my 13-year-old son is going to school and they have this mask policy, and that's like something I believe not to be safe from research, and it kind of like tears me apart. And he's going to this school and there doesn't seem to be another option. And I am like talking medical and health with the administration of the school, which is like sometimes it comes out to be a little bit like politics and money. Everybody has a different motivation. It's hard to talk. And I want to not get myself too wrapped up in this. I want to make some changes if Hashem will help me. But while the changes are not yet being made, to not get so caught up in it and just put everything I want to put everything in the right perspective.
So you're looking to make the internal shift.
Yes, the internal shift, what's in my control, what's not in my control. But then I'm the kind of person that's kind of determined to get the masks eradicated at the school. I don't know if that's going to happen, but there's a lot of things that's going on that might be pushed on us. Luckily, it hasn't happened yet in my state, like in other states. But I'm trying to get these people to understand we can't, the only way to a bully is to not come. But sometimes I feel like I'm talking a different language and I don't want it to eat me apart.
Right. I like the way you phrase that. I think your priorities are correct. So I'm going to share my no holds barred perspective also. So first of all, there are a few levels in which to look at this. One of them is the actual situation. So I noticed a few weeks ago that half of us are angry and afraid because of the virus and because of the people not complying, and half of us are angry and afraid because of the people who are complying to what we feel is irrational, not safe, etc. So I think the one of the key things to remember is the first thing to remember is to stay out of fear and to understand this is a divine process. That's number one. To try to have compassion for other people's point of view. We know the story. We just finished the Torah portion from last week of Noah, and we know the story of the Tower of. Those are familiar know the story of the people who built the Tower of Babel. And the Torah reports that they were completely unified, even though they were fighting against God. And because of that, they were successful. God had to actually ununify them by creating, that time everybody spoke the same language. Everybody spoke Hebrew, the language of creation, and they were scattered, in all the different languages, and a confusion reigned. So by unifying, by connecting to that energy of unity, we can accomplish a lot. And I want to just put this on the table, that in something that these, like I said in the last Decoding Current Events class, the Torah predicts, and the Rebbe specifically talks about this, that at the end of days, at this transition point between exile and redemption, that's also called the end of days, like a jumping off point for a new world. The old is fading out, is breaking down, and the new is emerging simultaneously. So we want to keep our eyes on the new as much as we possibly can, on what's emerging. At the same time, the Rebbe specifically says that at this time, quoting the prophet Micha, for those of you who weren't there, Micah, that at this time there will be evil in the world of such a great strength, so embedded, that we will not be able to change it on our own. Rather, God will change it. And what is the way? We need his help. What is the way that will be initiated? What's the point of the increased evil? I'm quoting again, paraphrasing again, is to get us to shift our ground of being. so that we do, instead of like fighting things side by side, and sometimes you have to, but instead of getting wrapped up in like, I've got to take care of this, and how am I going to take care of it, and is it going to get worse, and is it going to get worse? We want to go vertical. We want to understand this part of a divine process and connect to God, connect to our inner selves, connect to God, connect to each other, like we did briefly right at the beginning of this call. That said, you can find a lot of information online. You have to be able to sift it. Some of it, I'm sure, is complete nonsense, a lot of it, and a lot of it is probably deep truth. And it does, if you follow, what I try to do is look and see what I can see is happening on the ground, and then confirm or, validate or invalidate what I'm reading or what I'm hearing from different news sources or influencers, not mainstream. I don't even pay attention to mainstream. I believe that it's pretty much all propaganda at this point. But it does look very much like there's been a process of through the American administration, whether you like them or hate them, that there's been a process of taking down embedded evil from many, many, many places. And there's a lot of evidence of this. Just based on fact, let's start with that there has been no new war. This is the first administration in which there's been no new war. In fact, a lot of wars and threats of war have been at least temporarily and hopefully permanently eliminated. The taxation, which has been a huge burden on people, is being lessened. There are many countries for example, in the Middle East, the peace in the Middle East, one of the first things that Trump did was somehow, whether through bargaining or coercion, threats, or I have no idea, but the administration of Saudi Arabia, which was extremely deeply embedded in financing and propagating terror, just fell apart. And there's a new leader, and I'm sure he's ruthless, or he wouldn't be able to lead that country, but he's not promoting terror, quite the opposite. So there are things that are happening. I've been driving by, here in Israel. If you're not here, you might not know, but like you'll constantly be driving by some kind of door in a stone structure, and it will say miklat, which means shelter, bomb shelter. Most, all new construction and some old construction has in it, every new house or apartment has in it a room called a mamad, which is, I don't know how to describe it. It's a mini bunker. It's like, it could be a closet. Usually it's a closet, but it's very reinforced with concrete. It has to be a certain thickness, so that if there would be an attack like there have been in Israel so many times, rocket attacks or whatever, the family can just go in there. But there hasn't been, in the South, there have been some rocket attacks, that's the truth, but it's so much less. Since Trump moved the embassy, things have really quieted down here. And now with the Accords, if the whole Middle East makes peace, maybe those miklatot, maybe those shelters will be turned into something more fun. So there are all kinds of, I don't want to spend too much time just talking about this, but the fact that the big pharma, that the cost of drugs now in America has been lowered in some cases by 90%. Trump basically declared war on big pharma. There's a lot of news and a lot of hopeful news about amazing things that are in the pipeline, and you can see that a lot of things have happened already. So you can also see that there's a lot of bad things happening. There are riots, there are horrible disclosures coming out. But as I said before, there has to be, and this is predicted in the Torah, there has to be a breaking apart of evil on behalf of a revelation of more good. So that's happening. And if you look for it, you'll see it. Does that help? Does that help you feel more peaceful?
Yeah, because a lot of the evil is breaking. That's really good. And I have to connect with Hashem. I could do hishtadlus like I want, but not make it big in my mind. Make it just one thing and try to get, what's the most important thing first.
Right. I'm not a prophet and I can't know, but I have no way of knowing anything. But I would suspect that there might be another couple of months of craziness and then it's going to die down. But I think a lot of it there's reason to believe a lot of it was for the sake of trying to influence the election. And
yes.
Many things are going to change probably very quickly. So, if you're really upset, you can keep your son home for a few weeks and play with him and teach him. That's not a bad thing. If you want to send him to school, I wouldn't worry about it. I'll give him some vitamin C or whatever you can find online. That's good for mask relief. And yeah,
Yeah. Thank you.
you're welcome. Thanks for the question.
Yeah.
Okay, who's next? I see yeah, who's that?
I
Colleen?
just here in Texas, there's like some counties that are opening up for masks. And just to share my perspective as my profession, as a nurse, we have COVID patients. I take care of newborn babies. Their lives are so fragile. And for me, to me, that people wear a mask, it's respectful to other people. And I can't take COVID to work. Like if I get COVID or if I'm exposed, I can't work. That puts a strain on my whole system. Like my next door neighbor, they had a friend over for playing with their son. They got diagnosed. And thank God I hadn't been, I'm good friends with my next door neighbors, and I hadn't come in contact with them after they got exposed. So it's not necessarily a fear. It's that if I get exposed, I can't go to work. We're already down so many nurses for various reasons. Like it's going to put even more of a strain. So for me, it's not out of fear. It's out of respect. That I will continue to wear.
I work in a hospital. You should be, yeah. So everybody's in a different situation. And it makes sense to wear a mask in the hospital with the vulnerable population.
Well, but also outside of the mask. We don't have a choice but to wear a mask inside the hospital.
Okay. So there's so much mixed. There's so much mixed. Again, I'm going to repeat.
Yeah.
We have to just respect each other's opinions and understand it's a divine process, and live and let live. That's the only way that this is going to be peaceful at this time.
Yeah. It's just another perspective, and I feel, and
great.
again, it's not out of fear, but out of respect for other people.
Thanks, Colleen. Mm-hmm. Okay, I see there's something in the chat, which I'll read, and then we'll take somebody else. I felt blocked physically, i.e. stiffness, not much energy flowing through me. Any suggestions on how to unblock myself? So, I think that one of the easiest suggestions, and this is for almost everything that's bothering you, if it's emotional, if it's energetic, is to just sit down. First of all, obviously, to move, dance, get your energy moving. Qigong is excellent, but to sit and to really check in with yourself. I cannot say this too many times. When you close your eyes, you can try it now if you want to, and feel your breath going through your body, and you just focus on that breath. And that's it. What's happening if you do that deeply is you're coming to a place that sometimes in healing is called interface, which means that you're outside of your identity. You're not judging, you're not worrying, you're just present. And that often, usually, my experience is usually, if I get to that place, will open up energy flow. Because the emotions, the energy from outside, who knows what's really, if there's 5G, I don't know what's going on out there, but things affect us. And I think things affect us more than they used to, because I think that you could call it a membrane that separates us, is much more permeable than it ever was before. So it's really, really important to check in with yourself, like to allow your system. It's not just the breath. It's when you check inside, when you connect inside, you're really, in a sense, giving your system, your immune system, all of your system, the proper coordinates. Here, I'm here. You could even visualize yourself pulling back your energy from wherever it might be. You don't have to know where it might be. Come back into me. Come back into me. And then other energy that's not for you, just leave, and just remind yourself where you are. It's very easy to forget where you are. And anytime we put our attention somewhere, anytime we feel fear, or we feel like a victim of circumstances beyond our control, even if it's not that, even if, we went to sleep and our guard was down and, things entered our system, it's really important more than ever before just to root in where we are. And that is one of the most simple ways to do it. Just to close your eyes. If you want, you can pray. I always do, God, Hashem, please, be in here with me. And then to kind of beam love or compassion, or even just to deeply listen to yourself as you breathe. And that will bring you, that will do a lot to bring you back to ground. It's like a cell phone. that has to, not a cell phone, a portable phone, that has to go back into its base in order to remember to get reconnected. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah. Hi, Shifra. It's Robin.
Hi,
How are
Robin.
you?
Good.
First, I wanted to thank you for that L program. It was so inspiring. And I wish you could do something like that again. I don't know what you would connect it to. I mean, obviously, the LL program was connected to the month of L, and which is very specific, but it was very inspirational. And what I'm finding, and the difficulty that I'm having, is I feel like there's so much change going on that it's almost happening too quickly for me on a personal level. I think there have been a lot of shifts for me, and I've had a lot of challenges with my family, and just other things in my life. And I don't know if it's, if the problem is that I'm overwhelmed by it, or should I try to slow it down? How do I guess, without being specific, I mean, I have a lot of, my children have challenges. I have one child has, health challenges, and I'm sort of trying to break old behaviors, because the old behaviors don't seem to be working, of trying to solve everything.
Yeah.
And,
I sure get that.
clearly I'm not in control. So I guess what I'm asking you is, what kinds of things can I do to just be kinder to myself and recognize that, this is a process that's going to take time, and that it is moving towards something. But in the moment, it's very difficult to remember that, I'm not in control, because I really don't feel in control at all. I mean, which is good in a sense, because it means that, as long as you recognize that Hashem is in control, that's good. But the old patterns and habits and ways of thinking are very, very difficult to break. So I guess I'm asking you if you have suggestions on how to break some of those old ways of thinking.
Well, there are a few questions in there. I wanted to ask you, actually, what are ways that you could nurture yourself? That was one of the questions you asked. Slow down and take better care of yourself. So what are some of those ways?
I think that's a big part of it, because I really feel depleted. I feel like I'm always sort of giving out, even though I don't get any, often not only do I not get gratitude, I get sort of beaten back. And so, yeah, it's been a very pretty much isolating experience for me the last 8 months. I've been fortunate to have a job, thank God, and working from home. But I don't see the people often, that I don't see people often. So I guess I could try to connect more with my friends outside, because,
Robin, let's stop here for a second. Can you close your eyes?
Yes.
Everybody can do this if you feel moved. Just ask yourself, and I don't want you to answer quickly. I want you to wait minimum 30 seconds before you answer anything, but I want you to ask your inner self, deep inner self, what can I do to nurture myself? What would nurture me? Let's just wait, and then if you don't get anything, just ask again, what could I do to nurture myself? What would really nurture me? What am I not allowing for myself that would connect me?
It's compassion. I have no compassion for myself. It's like almost self-love. Which sounds crazy, but
why does it sound crazy?
Well, because I'm being accused of being too selfish, which is, so I'm confused. I don't know who to believe. I guess that's the disconnect. I want to have more compassion for myself, but I'm not really sure how to do that. what that looks like, because
So let's just stop, close your eyes,
mhm,
ask yourself, what would it look like to have more compassion for myself? Again, for everybody, we could all use more compassion and self-love for ourselves.
and this is really, really hard. Um, I guess one thing I could do is not listen to the things that people are telling me, and to give myself support myself, with positive thoughts about myself, because I feel like there's so much negative coming at me all the time, and I absorb.
When did that start in your life, that you felt like there was so much negative coming at you?
As a very, very young, my mother she wasn't well, and she was very angry, and so there was a lot of negativity in my home as a child, and so I feel like this is what I'm really grappling with right now. I want to release it, because there really is so much good in my life, but I feel like I'm getting in my own way,
Who else is on video here? There are not so many people on video. Most people are not on video, but who else feels like you're getting in your own way sometimes?
Totally.
And who else feels like you're seeing the reoccurrence of patterns that you experienced, or emotions that you experienced from when you were quite young, at least some of the time? This is not an accident. And I'll just say here, Robin, thank you for sharing so deeply. I'm going to give you a couple of suggestions, quick suggestions, but this is deep work. This is the work. So, and it's work that we're all meant to do at this time. This is all the pattern that was imprinted on human beings according to the Kabbalistic framework at the eating of the tree of knowledge, at the urging of the snake. I look at all of these things as snake energies, like viruses in the system that we all have. We all have them in our own way. Our childhood is custom designed to recapitulate, to reactivate that core pattern. And now, because of where we are in history, it's the time for us to work on that. And the first thing to do is to see the pattern. This is for everybody. This is definitely not just for Robin. This is core for every human being. You want to see the pattern and look for the earliest time that you ever experienced it. So it's like there's this program. Tell me, anybody, if it's not clear what I'm saying, but this is a program that keeps running, this virus program, talk about virus, that keeps running, that is attracting other new reasons all the time to justify what it's trying to tell us. Right? So we think that our circumstances, our behavior is generating the feedback. No, it's the other way around.
That's helpful.
Okay. And so you want to really train yourself. This will make a massive difference for you if you can train yourself to think of this pattern. First of all, to see where it was implanted in you. It probably was implanted, generations before, in your parents and their parents and their parents. These are core human patterns of snake energy that are like an autoimmune. I think of it very often as like a personal and even a cosmic autoimmune condition, where we get confused about whether this is me or whether this is an attack on me.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody understand that? So if you can even start to look, and ask yourself the question, is this me or is this an attack on me? And one of the ways that you answer that question is, how early was that programmed in you? How early did you first experience this? So if you can do that when you're triggered and just simply ask the question and observe, that's already going to start to loosen up that tight connection between the program, between the virus and you. So the virus, that this whole idea of the virus, there's so many ways in which it's not accidental. We want to use this idea to create a healthy immune system. And that healthy immune system will connect us with the flow from our soul. the flow of purpose and the flow of self-love. Doesn't mean that everything any of us do is perfect. So what? You know,
that's the other. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that's the other problem. It's this fear of making a mistake, you know?
Yeah, which is also the virus, The consequence of the snake energy is shame and fear. And then judgment, primarily of self, but also of others, because we judge other people to the degree that we judge ourselves. We can love other people to the degree that we love ourselves. And I'm not talking about give, because many people probably here, many people will give to others, maybe more than they'll give to themselves, but it doesn't mean that they're giving from love. Often when we give to our children, you know, a certain point, it's from fear and not from love. So here's the other suggestion I want to give you, and that is to take a notebook, write the name of any child that you feel you need help with, and write everything that you admire and love about them. And keep rewriting it every day and see what happens.
Okay.
Okay, let me know.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, so a few comments here about nurturing and not nurturing. Heidi says, I need to go to sleep at a regular time and eat healthily at regular times. I feel terrible if I'm hungry or tired. Yeah, I mean, the basics. Colleen says, it's challenging as a woman, especially as a mother, to be compassionate towards yourself. Where is the negativity coming from now? I don't exactly understand that question. Where is the negativity coming from now? But, you know, we have this. This is already like, I always think of a nuclear core, not that I even know what it looks like, but something that's radiating out continuously, that by its very nature is radiating self-doubt, radiating shame, radiating fear, usually on a level that is subconscious. So we're just responding to it, but we can't act, we're reacting to it, but we can't actually respond because we can't see it clearly. So when you start to see the pattern clearly, I'm telling you that this will change your life, everyone who hears this, if you do it. When you start to see it clearly, as the virus, keep looking for where it was integrated into your system, you will start to see it more and more clearly. And everybody has it. Everybody has it. We want to develop the antibodies. It's part of our purpose now. Okay, I nurture myself, Heidi says, by sitting and drinking hot herbal tea. That's nice. Brenda says, Robin's voice is my own. Thank you. Colleen says, can we turn off our microphones? I think David is muting everybody, so I don't know why there would be a sound problem. Okay, any more questions? I'll wait a little while, but if not, we'll just have a short call.
Should I put
question
two in the chat box?
Okay, who spoke first of all?
Michelle.
And someone else? Did someone else speak at the same time?
I did, Edna Sarah.
Okay, so
Mine can wait.
Okay, so the question that's in the chat box, chat box, have you spoken about animal sacrifice being reinstated in the next temple? No, I never have. How would the world respond to this when it's an outdated process? You know, if it happens, then I'm sure by that time, when there's a third temple, the whole world will see truth. If it's a divine thing, the whole world will see that. I don't think we'll have to worry about the world responding. My opinion, which I have no source for, but it just makes sense to me, is that there won't be animal sacrifice. And that is because one of the prophecies of Geula, of redemption, is that God will swallow up death forever. There won't be death. So I don't see how there could be animal sacrifices, and I don't see how it would be needed. But there'll probably be something that accomplishes, you know, similar things if they are needed. But that's my opinion on it.
There's a question before that also from me. The one above that.
Did you previously talk about why certain souls have left due to COVID? No, but that would be the answer. You know, that would be speculation. Why do souls leave? Either they finish their jobs. Sometimes the job of a soul, like I know some people who have passed away who were leaders in their communities and very, you know, special people. And so it's possible that sometimes that when a soul leaves, it's because they're doing something for everyone. They're trying to create an effect, and that's part of their purpose. So the general principle is when a soul leaves, it's because it's finished its mission in this particular incarnation. So yeah, that would be my answer. Okay, Nasara.
So you said when we're going through the asking the questions, ask, is it me or is this an attack on me? So what would be the next step? It seems like, is it me? Then I can recognize that pattern maybe from my childhood and like take steps to deactivate that. But is it an attack on me? I'm not sure how I would process that.
The best way to process it is either and to spend some time, as we talk about in school continuously, to just go into the energy of where that negativity is in your body, to separate from the story, which warms it up, raises the vibration, releases the deeper truth and the light. But the other thing to do that's easy, this is essential. But the other thing to do is, after you recognize that this is a program, a virus, to ask yourself, what do I really want to experience now? What do I really want? And as soon as you ask yourself that question and really tune in, even if it's, I want to feel rested, I want some green, some grass under my feet. I want to, move my body. I want to eat something yummy or nurturing or, whatever it is. I want to get a hug from a friend. So as soon as you ask yourself that, you're activating the desire from your soul. It's a different program completely. When you ask yourself, what do I want? You're connecting with yourself. Likewise, when you look at the energy, as I've described, those are ways to connect with your true self, the actual flow that's coming from within you. And that's always the antidote.
So yesterday in class, when you were taking us through the bringing Hashem to be with you together, would that also work for both of these questions? To just like be present?
You just froze.
From there?
I either I froze or you froze when you were just speaking. I go back up a couple sentences.
In class yesterday, when you were walking us through facing the fear or finding whatever it was, and then especially with fear, asking Hashem to be with you in it and seeing what shifts, would that work with both of these questions?
Well, I'm a little confused, both of which are both
Is
of
it
the
me?
questions.
Like, is it me? If I just wasn't clear, then I can ask Hashem, be with me. I think this is me, but I need to shift from here some kind of way. And also, if it's an attack, I would assume that'd be an ideal time to bring Hashem into it.
Yes,
to
it's always good. Yeah. Yeah, listen, yes to both. It's pretty simple, you guys. It's simple, but not necessarily easy. But the simple fact is that if the core nature of everything is God, then anytime we're experiencing something that gives us a negative feeling, it's not God, or it's not intimacy with a loving God. So anytime you can actually bring an awareness of God into an experience that feels like it's separating you from God, it's going to be good. It's just a deeper kind of prayer. And prayer has the power to change reality, because prayer connects to the source of reality, takes you right out of when I say reality, I mean the physical, creation reality. It connects you to the deeper reality where creation is coming into being at every single second. God is creating the world again and again and again, now and 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 now. So from that deeper perspective, when you connect, you're right at the source, and anything can change. But I don't want to make it too complicated. This is a practice. So if you do these simple things regularly, daily, you will start to see probably very major differences in how you feel, in your ability to have clarity, in your ability to perceive solutions, and even in answers to prayers. The more intimacy with Hashem, the more trust, the more work it out like a relationship. Like, you don't have to be, when you talk to God, you don't have to be good. You don't have to be putting on a smiley face. You just tell the truth. Share. Be in the relationship. See what happens. Hi, Alyssa. That's my sister-in-law. I love her so much. Okay, let's look at the chat. So Melissa says, I'm having constant problems with the house, electricity, water, internet, and usually the workers need to come back a second time. This is a pattern. I have spiritual practice every AM, 1 to 2 hours. I'm anxious and fearful, not of the virus, but of life. So I'm not sure what the spiritual practice is, but I would bring the fear into, not try to subdue the fear. This is a very big pitfall for spiritual people, that we try to, again, be good and subdue our feelings so that we can show up the way we think we're supposed to, like to clear the air, force it out, what we don't want. Instead, you want to embrace whatever you are experiencing in the moment. Know that it's divine. Like when you ask if it's an attack, it's even if it's an attack that's generating the energy, that attack is just an attack from your inner self, from the virus within you. So when you tune into it, and the technique is always to let go of the story and tune into the energy in your body. And if you can do that in a state of prayer and with self-love and self-compassion, it changes the energy. As my favorite Qigong master, Chun Li Lin, always says, energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can be transformed. So we're taking that energy through our attention and our intention and through prayer, and we are literally changing its nature. It doesn't go away. It just becomes bright instead of dark. The snake in Hebrew numerology, gematria, is the same equivalent as the word is nachash for the snake, and it is the equivalent to Mashiach, which is the Redeemer. It's the same exact numerology and almost the same letters. So that is just, the Hebrew language reveals the deeper truth because it's the language of creation. And the deeper truth is that your challenges have the greatest possible light in them. Your programming, when you can step back, that virus, and really, connect to the deeper reality, the bigger reality, the divine reality, and together with your source, in love, look at this issue together and work with it. Now you're co-creating. And that's where we are. That's where we are right now. That's what we're up to. So I would like to suggest for Melissa that the anxiety and the fear, that you work on it in this way. I don't know what your spiritual practice is like, again, but I'm assuming that you're not sending deep love and attention to the energy of the anxiety and the fear in a state of prayer. Again, not knowing for sure, but I would suspect that this practice might be a little bit like a burden. And I would like to suggest that you turn it into something nurturing instead, if that's correct. If not, feel free to write something else. Gila says, aren't we supposed to revert to a plant-based diet when Mashiach comes? Some people say so. I would suspect so, but I'm not an expert in that. Mashiach being the Redeemer. Colleen says, Melissa, I'm having similar issues, a lot of leaking, my pool, my sprinkler system. I had a bad mouse problem that had to be remediated. It's so much. Oh, hi, Moshe. Moshe Stoker says, hello, Edna Sarah. You guys can also read the comments if you want. I'm just reading them, just looking for the questions. Is that the idea of the greatest light comes from the greatest darkness? Yes, that is a core Kabbalistic principle. When we bring God into the fear, we are making a vessel for divine light. Yes, exactly correct. Colleen is one of my students. Robin says, I'm having internet problems too. There's also, by the way, there's probably so much going on the internet right now that, there are outages. So I don't know if it's only like a personal thing, but it could be. Marcella, don't embrace fear, use 1 or 2 hours for his bodhidut, if you can, meaning deep communion and speaking to God. That is what embracing fear is. Embracing fear is being where you are and not trying to hide it and not trying to change it, just bringing it into the prayer. Melissa says, I focus on feeling what is, the fear is in my heart. I don't know how I can be more self-compassionate. I try to do everything right. So again, his bodhidut, it's supposed to be, his bodhidut comes from the root bidud or boded, which means to be solitary. And it's a spiritual practice that certain groups of in Judaism focus on a lot, and that is to usually at night, but not necessarily, to go to a private place and just cry, scream, talk your heart out, have at it with God. So that is hisbodedus or hitbodedut. And I'm just wondering, Melissa, where you say I try to do everything right. That's sort of what I'm saying. I would not try to do everything right. And I would start by asking yourself, how early in life were you taught somehow, either verbally or otherwise, that you have to do everything right? That's a huge burden. Besides which, how do we, in so many cases, we don't know what is right. Okay, Stephanie says, so the negative, scary things we encounter are from the snake energy that humanity allowed into creation through the tree of knowledge. Yes, but it was part of the divine plan. Therefore, if we connect with God's energy through prayer and allow the energy to shift, we can transmute that snake energy into revealed light of Hashem, of God. Yes, correct. Okay. You can all read these for yourself. Mariah, when I try to create changes in my life or reach out for new opportunities, I regularly experience an energetic collapse in my center. Like when you're driving and instantaneously step on the brakes. That sounds like panic. It can literally knock me back physically. How do I find out what is causing this to happen? And how then do I heal or release it? Oh, Moria. Hi, Moria. Is everybody with these questions? Are you reading them? I don't want to be doing just a monologue. Okay, so fear. Fear is, like I said, fear and shame are the core qualities of the snake energy that keep us disconnected from ourselves. It's like an interface. It's like, a virus. What does a virus do? A virus co-opts the DNA or the RNA, and then when the cells replicate, they replicate the virus. So we want to separate in our awareness from the virus and ourselves. So fear, what are you afraid of? It's very I'm such a fan. I'm a massive fan of two things. One is the deep learning of mystical Torah, because it literally changes the consciousness. It literally connects you to God, to your own soul. It connects you to deeper dimensions over time. Life becomes completely different. And simultaneously, I'm a huge fan of doing the inner work to transmute this, what I'm currently calling snake energy, the inner traumas. But in order to do that, you have to really learn to go deep in and listen to yourself. It's actually the core of healing, even physical healing in many cases. And one of the reasons people don't do that, I remember when I used to feel it was unpleasant or burdensome to do that. I don't anymore. Now it's like super relaxing and a pleasure, but that's been a practice. I think the more that we are in a state of shame and judging ourselves, the more we reject part of ourselves and we're afraid to see what's really going on inside. So again, this is a lot of information in a short period of time. Where it really benefits you is in the practice. So I would suggest picking one thing. Don't try to do it all at once. This call will be on the Decoding Current Events website, so you can feel free to listen to it or any part of it. It'll be up probably tomorrow. And work with something and then pick up something else. But when you can just relax and go inside and be with what is, it like opens a portal to a deeper level of connection, a deeper level of reality, a deeper level of self-love. And it's a practice that builds on itself. So this is fear. And there's probably something that happened early on, or maybe even a past life that caused, because it's not just fear, it's panic. It's like, that feeling of sudden, like you described in the car. So it could be that you'll be able to remember it. It could be that you benefit from some kind of healing session or a hypnosis session or whatever. Or it could be that it'll come up in prayer as you just examine. One of the ways to do this is to feel where it is in your body. Again, in a state of prayer and quiet, and to actually just listen to that energy of that fear, of that panic. What do I mean by listen? Imagine that you are a mother or a sister or an aunt, or there's a precious small child in a bedroom and they're napping and you don't want to wake them, but you want to make sure they're okay. So you're listening. You're by the door. There's no inner voice. There's certainly no judgment. It's just listening. So when you can train yourself to do that with an experience like this and tune into that part of your body, you might get some significant insights, especially if you do it regularly. So there are a lot of different roads, that's an overview. The bottom line is you want to go in rather than out. The more you can go deeply in, the more you can do it with God in a state of prayer, and the more you can do it from a place of, if you can't muster up self-love, just try neutrality. Try some compassion. It's really hard to be a human being. The soul comes down into the body, comes down out of love of God. Before the soul comes into the body, Kabbalah describes that the soul is basking in the bliss of the light of godliness. And God shows it, the divine sparks that it can elevate and reveal if it only comes down into the body. It's like God saying, don't just like bask in my light. Come and be intimate with me. So the soul's like, all right, I'll do that. And then it pops into this body and it's like, ah, and then it forgets. So we want to remember. And that's all of these tools will help us remember. And the more we connect again to that deeper reality within us, around us, about us, the more our external reality shifts. It's part of the process. It's happening anyway. Geula, redemption, is in process. But who are we in the matter? Who are you in the matter? How are you reacting or responding or co-creating? And that's really where the biggest differences happen. Okay, hi Moshe. Thanks for mentioning Qigong. It really helps me connect to a Geula mind stream. I like it too. Heidi said, my oven has been broken since Rosh Hashanah. The appliance people looked at it, ordered the part. Now we're having mechanical issues and never came back. They have had the part since October 13. They aren't answering the phone. I and the rest of my family are frustrated. Interesting phenomenon. I'm not going to try to speak to that right now because I don't really know what to say. Okay, Melissa, praying, Qigong, yoga, bringing light into my body, house, everything. Alyssa asks, what should life look like in Geula mindset? Meaning, what are the earmarks that you're in the right place? Does anybody want to answer this? Like briefly, how do you know when you're in a Geula mindset? It's pretty simple. Can I answer it?
You recognize the good in everything. Constantly.
Okay, you recognize the good in everything. It's not an effort. You just tend to see the light, the bright lights. Yesterday in class, we were talking about, that's one aspect. We'll take some more. Yesterday in class, we were talking about how in the School for Spiritual Empowerment, we were talking about how we've all experienced those moments when life seems like it's a dungeon with the walls caving in on you. And everything is just impossible and there's no way out. And the anxiety rises till it's coming out your mouth, right? I had one of those. I had several of those like last month. And at the same time, when something there shifts, when one little thing opens, when you decide that you're going to create a solution for something, or even when you sit, and shift the energy, all of a sudden, everything looks possible again. And how can it be that you have the same circumstances and they can either be totally dark or totally light, or at least totally dark or, full of possibility. And that's because of the mindset. So when you recognize that everything is coming for a good purpose, coming from above, and it feels like an opportunity, even if it takes work, but it feels like an opportunity, that's a huge clue. When you feel like smiling, when you notice, when you go outside and you notice the movement in the leaves, in the trees and the branches, when you feel well disposed toward the people in your life, all of those things are a part of Geula mindset. We're not just talking about lofty ideas, that to create that result, there's a multi-pronged approach and it's practice, but especially to be able to sustain it, in the midst of all kinds of things that are happening around you. Very, very, very easy to get triggered. But each time you get triggered and you work to transmute that bit of snake energy, I call it Velcro. That's the outside input is catching on that Velcro, on a piece of that Velcro, and reactivating the inner virus so that it fills up your consciousness. So you need to learn how to move it aside. And each time you do that, you have reclaimed more of yourself. You've transmuted more of that energy. It's a process, but it doesn't It never reverts, you know, it'll come up again for now, but it's a deeper level. It's a different trigger. You're clearing out your system. It's very exciting, actually. And it's a lot of fun. It could be a lot of fun. Okay, the quickest way, what is the fastest way to unstick yourself when you're in the gullus mindset? That depends on what, where you are, what the issue is, and yeah, that's individual. I found that that's very individual. Sometimes it's talking to someone, sometimes it's crying, sometimes it's this inner work, sometimes it's music, sometimes it's often it's getting out of the house. Intentionally, always it has to be with intention. You have to understand that it's a virus. If you don't understand it's a virus and you don't really take that time to separate yourself from it, instead of believing that it is you, then you're kind of stuck in it. But as soon as you do that and you ask yourself, what you can ask yourself many questions and get answers. If you're not used to doing this, try it. Practice it until you master it. You can ask yourself, once you realize that, what is something that would shift my energy? If you close your eyes and ask yourself that question, you will almost always get an answer. Might be going to the beach, might be going for a jog, might be going out and getting coffee. Might be a glass of wine, as long as you're non-alcoholic. Okay, Melissa says, you're right, since being born, I feel I'm not right. So we all have this, you know. I'm just going to encourage everybody either not to be ashamed of whatever your story is, or to not be ashamed of being ashamed, because this is the game. It's a game. And the only reason we're not, it's kind of like, you know, not everybody will probably relate to this, but those of you who are more suspicious of the, you know, the mainstream narratives will probably. The reason that people get away with things, the reason that people have gotten away with so many bad things for so long is because collectively we have not been able to see them. Like each person's caught in their own experience. But as soon as things become public and there's a collective awareness of something that's wrong, it can easily be fixed. So we want to create that collective awareness, individual and collective, by understanding that we're all in this programming together, we're all in the game together. And the more that you realize that it's the snake and not your fatal flaw, not your snake, it's the snake that you could see as having tentacles, you know, 7.5 billion tentacles that go into each of our heads and hearts, and programming. And the biggest, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Stuxnet virus. If you remember that at one point, Iran's huge nuclear threat was pushed back at least by this virus called Stuxnet, which they said was created by Israel and America. And the quality of the Stuxnet virus was, computer virus, is that it had a way of concealing itself so that the computer did not recognize it as a virus, literally like a virus. So it replicated itself and got into all the systems and started destroying the nuclear, you know, the computers that were controlling the nuclear energy. So we have that. So we want to really, really, really focus on understanding what's you know, what's personal, what's, you know, what is shameful about you, and what's just the virus. And, you know, you can't really change. Shame can be a catalyst. Here's another thing, like sometimes we do something that we should be ashamed of, but you can either get stuck in the shame, which is a virus, or you can be empowered. You know, even that, the fact that you fell, the fact that you did something wrong, that's because of the virus. So now you can step back and you can reclaim your true power, and you can work on that, and you can make amends for that. So whenever we confuse what's me and what's the snake, we are disempowered, and that's the purpose of it, to keep us disempowered. And the great news is a lot of it's coming out in the open, and we have tools and techniques and awareness and connection, you know, and at some point, probably not too far in the future, there's going to be a critical mass of people seeing the deeper truth and really being able to, you know, to support each other in transforming and transmuting it all. Okay, Stephanie says, thank you. Your answers are so helpful because it's very challenging for me to understand Ein Od Milvado. There's nothing but the one, in tandem with the viral snake energy. My inner fear is that the snake energy is by default God's, and therefore he's against me. That's one of the biggest lies of the snake. That's actually what the snake told Adam and Eve, you know, in other words, like God wants all this, you know, this knowledge for himself. If you eat from this tree, you're going to be like God. So, you know, it's all just the core illusion. It's so embarrassing to admit that fear, embarrassing isn't the right word, deep shame of that accusation against my loving creator and sustainer. It's really important for us at this point, if we want to get deeper than human beings have gotten deeper before, we want to get to the place where we can shift things at the root, which I certainly do. I think it's the call of the hour. We're going to have to be willing to be very real with God and with ourselves. So what I said before about being real with yourself and not trying to suppress something, but rather to want to let go of the story and be in the energy with compassion and work with it. We want to do the same with God. Like if everything is God, then everything is God. And what does that mean? And feel free to, be in the relationship. If you have a problem in a relationship, how are you going to fix it? Is it by pretending that there's no problem? Is it by withdrawing, and never getting close? Is it by just pure anger and resistance? Or is it by like a vulnerability and opening a real dialogue? There are two parties in this relationship, you and God. There's not just you and there's not just God. And things are ready to shift. So we have to be in it, we have to be real. It's so easy to feel overwhelmed while doing this work. I see 27 new messages that I haven't seen yet. It always starts out slow, I'm like, are there any questions, any comments? And it's silence. And then once it starts going, it keeps mushrooming. So we'll see what we can do. We'll probably stay on up to 30 more minutes and then we'll end. Okay, it's addressing feeling overwhelmed by doing this work. Nobody has mentioned the sense of overwhelm yet, but I want all these beautiful souls to be empowered to move through it when it comes up. Overwhelm is the same as anything else. Overwhelm is just an energy with a story. I guess I didn't say that, but one of the keys to really doing the unraveling of these core snake knots at the root is to understand that what keeps them, and part of what keeps them in place is the shame, thinking it's us, or the fear, or the need to perform, not being real. But another thing is to conflate the story that we have about the energy with the energy. So let me just explain it this way. If you were literally being chased by a rabid beast, you would feel fear. What would that be like? Oh my gosh, in your head, a narrative. There's a rabid beast, it's going to eat me. And in your body would be a feeling of tightness, your chest, your stomach, whatever. Adrenaline, right? But if I would tell you, hey, there's a rabid beast behind you about to eat you, you might hear the words, but you would not have the adrenaline. Likewise, if you're about to have a reunion with somebody that you really love and haven't seen for 2 years, you're going to have adrenaline. You're watching the clock, their plane's about to land, but there's no story of a rabid beast. So that adrenaline does not equate to fear. So there's a difference, and I hope I'm explaining this properly. There's a difference between the energy in your body, the pure energy, and the energy connected to a story. The adrenaline of fear and excitement is the same adrenaline, but when it comes to when it's connected with the story, that's when it creates a sense of reality that's a hold on you. That's when it's a virus. So you want to be able to put the story to the side. I'm a failure. My kids I don't know what's going to happen. Nothing works in my life. Does everything break? And does God hate me? Whatever it is, what's going to happen with the government? Is it all going to collapse? Are there going to be, is there going to be a second wave, a third wave, a fifth wave that's going to kill everyone? Like all of that you want to put aside and focus on the energy. And when you focus on the energy, it's like dropping an ice cube into a vat of warm water. It could take a little while, but you want to listen, ask your questions, ask that energy, what are you? Do you want to tell me something? Do you want more space? Do you want to have more space to expand in my body? These are all techniques. I'm just like hopping from the top, it's the tip of the iceberg of each thing, but hopefully you'll be able to take something and use it. So that energy is just pure energy. As I said before, energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can be transformed. So when you learn, the first time I ever decided to teach a class online by audio, I was terrified. And I booked, I created a free class that I was going to offer, and I booked it on, I announced it on this conference call center. It was pretty new technology then. And I booked it for about 2.5 months early because I was so scared to do it that I wanted to give myself some lead time. And I've told this story before, but not recently. When I showed up for the class in the morning, I woke up nauseated from fear. And the hour before the class, my husband took the kids out of the house because I couldn't bear to have any noise or any distraction. And I felt like I was going to throw up. And the call started, and I had some notes, and I had told myself, I have this technique, just say the first 3 words. Just read the first 3 words. So it kind of opens up that. So I did that, and I was very stiff for about 10 minutes, and then the flow really started to come, and I got more into my zone, and I got really good feedback, which was new for me, and it was a big surprise, very gratifying. But the main thing that happened was that I learned that I can feel terror, and it doesn't have to stop me. And that's like another big illusion of this snake energy, is that we believe it, and we respond to it as if it's our master. It's not your master. And when you learn that, it's just anybody see Harry Potter, the movies, or read the books? So the boggart, remember the boggart? So one of the things that they learned how to deal with was this thing called a boggart, which was this like harmless kind of energy that would read people's biggest fear and then appear in the form of that. Like if somebody was afraid of snakes, it would appear like a snake. And when they would laugh at it, it would pop and disappear. So the snake energy is like that too. It literally, in its core, it's not real. It's just made up of redemptive energy, but it needs to be, first we need to laugh at it. First we need to allow for it and recognize it and laugh at it. Eventually understand this is not our boss. About overwhelm, yeah, I would just deal with, I don't know if I already answered that. I would just overwhelm, if you feel overwhelmed, go take a break. You don't have to work all the time. Want to watch a movie, watch a movie. Go to the beach. Life doesn't have to be so heavy. It's heavy enough. Sometimes we don't have to make it more heavy. And it's very important to do things that give you joy, even if they're not like so magnificently transformational. Turn on some trance music, whatever turns you on. Okay. Thank you, Colleen. Melissa says, I appreciate any comments. Being overwhelmed and not knowing that one is overwhelmed. Okay, Robin has to go back to work. The attack is a created virus. You're the medication to erase the virus created to put you down. Mm-hmm. That's right. Your free choice and your consciousness are the medication. Okay, Ellen says, I have a full-blown 2-year-old temper tantrum. He can handle it completely. And, oh, no, you should have a full-blown temper tantrum. 2-year-old temper tantrum. He can handle it. And he will not love you less. Yes, I believe that. I believe that completely. I've been searching myself, trying to understand why I cry when I'm feeling vulnerable, especially when I pour my heart out to Hashem. Crying is just an overflow of emotions. That's why we can cry when we're joyful, when we're moved, or when we're sad. It's like a release valve. It literally does calm us down, right? So it's like the tea kettle. If the tea kettle didn't have, if the hole in the tea kettle that you put on the fire was clogged, and it wouldn't whistle, but it would explode. So there's nothing wrong with crying. There are different kinds of tears. There are tears of self-pity. That's better to learn to avoid those. There are tears of therapeutic tears where something's processing and we're just escorting it out. There are tears of being moved. Vulnerability, generally, ours or someone else's, can bring us to tears. Tears can be very beautiful assignments, like they can be treasure like diamonds in the right case. Okay, thank you, Maria. Heidi remembers the boggarts. Okay. All right, it looks like we've been through all of the questions. Does anybody else have any questions? Anybody who's on live? Are we good?
I'd like to ask about prayer, and stepping aside from traditional tefillot. Like, how can this be done other than just kind of pouring your heart out to God? Like when you talk about prayer, are there other ways to do it? And is it appropriate to maybe use affirmations in the prayer where you state what is in the positive, which represents what you want to manifest, like it's already here, and to express gratitude for the fact that it's already here. Having the faith that through the power of language and recognizing, that we have some of the same qualities of God, how effective is that? And do you teach any type of method that's similar to that?
Yes, I do. And it can be very effective.
Can you talk just a little bit about it?
I think it's a little bit beyond I have talked a little bit about it already, basically, but we're just we're pointing to things. So
But-
yeah, I teach. I really can't give a whole class on it now, and Les wouldn't do you any good. But yes, if you're asking if there's a principle, if it's aligned with Torah and Kabbalah, to believe that you can, that your thoughts and words can influence reality, definitely it is, very much so. All of reality already exists, all possibilities already exist. Not as physical, but they exist in the realm of potential, as do all your thoughts and all your future years and, everything that will unfold and everything that won't unfold. All of that exists in the realm of potential. It's called, you could call it the dimension of Koach, K-O-A-C-H. So definitely, that's one of the reasons why, and I heard this in the name of the Rebbe, I didn't read it inside, but that it's one of the reasons behind writing that list, as I mentioned to Robin earlier. I don't think Robin's on the call anymore, but if you have a problem with a child or someone else, to actually write all of their good qualities every day. You can do that with yourself as well. Very powerful. Because you're actually, when you focus on, all of it exists in the realm of Koach, right? If you look at what is and you fight it, it's going to stick, right? And if you ignore it, it's also going to stick. So what you want to do is go beyond it and pull something from that realm of potential. And you do that by focusing on it in various ways. That's not the only piece of the puzzle, but it's a very, very powerful one. So I hope that answers.
Yeah, so as co-creators, that's not regarded as arrogant.
Not per se, but here's the thing. It's a good question. There are things that happen in the universe that have a natural structure to them. Most things, like what's the difference between belief in God and idol worship? Sometimes it's very subtle. Like God created a world where you can predict without a shadow of a doubt that the sun is going to rise and set, and the moon is going to rise and set, and everything's going to go around everything, and the seasons are going to change, and that it's very easy to make a mistake, and people have throughout history, and see these predictable cycles and just depend on those cycles. That's also called astrology, which is a science, but we're not allowed to use it to predict, because we're not supposed to be underneath it, because there's a higher cause that is guiding all of that. It's like, when you're driving the car, is it the motor, the car's driving on its own, or is it the person with their foot on the pedal and their hand on the wheel? So in all of these things, and all of these, including what people might call the law of attraction or co-creation, the difference between completely permissible and constructive and potentially destructive, and I'll leave it at that, is how deep you're looking. Even if you're happy with something that's happening on the geo, I'm very, very, very happy I'm thrilled with what's going on with Trump, with the whole Trump team, whatever that is, agree with me or not. I see so many things happening that did not seem possible, but it would be and I'm grateful. I think he's put his family and himself at tremendous risk and sacrificed so, incomprehensibly. Yet, is it because of him that things are happening? If you have my belief system, or is it because it became time and God just appoints people to play roles that they anyway would be inclined to play, and then either opens the door or keeps the door closed? Same with us. So we want to see that everything is the hand of God, and God works through us. He works through everything. So again, like we started out saying, there's a core truth in the universe, and that is Ein Od Milvado. There's only one. There's only God. So the more we can see that, of course, use whatever, just like, is it okay to go to the beach if it makes you feel better? Of course it's okay. Is it okay to use your words to influence reality and your thought? Of course it's okay. Just don't think that the beach is like God, don't make a mistake about what is really going on here and what's the source of everything. And then you're pretty good, with possible exceptions. But in general, yeah. I appreciate the question. Okay, where else? I have to scroll down again. If anybody wants to talk, I guess you have to raise your hand. Otherwise, I'm just going to look at what people wrote. Do you notice any difference between women's reaction and men's reaction to the current situation? The truth is that I interact a lot more with women, probably because it would be reasonable to say that women and I tend to think more alike than men and I, with some exceptions. But when I read online, when I go to, I'm on Twitter, I found certain people, I find it's a good source of news for me. I found people that have tended to give very reliable information. Maybe some of them are insiders. So no, I don't see much difference. I think the difference is maybe more women. Women surely tend to be more open-hearted in general, more vulnerable in general, from what I understand. But of course, there are many exceptions. But I think more it's there are plenty of women who are not of a like mind to me, or probably to you guys. So I think it's more what our inner programming is, how we're going to interpret things and how we're going to react to things, and how a lot of how we were brought up, our biases. I was thinking, how come? I asked myself at first, it drove me crazy. That's when I started doing these decoding reality calls, because I realized I could do something from a different level. It was driving me crazy. Why do people believe this, and why are people thinking like this, and why are they, and then I realized, it's like everybody's brought up a different way. My aunt and mother were telling me from a young age that you can't trust the medical establishment. And they gave me books about how the FDA destroyed, different innovative technology. So I realized I'm biased that way. I'm biased toward thinking out of the box. Not that I'm so, we're set on a trajectory. We'll all get there in the end. I'm sure there are things that I'm biased toward that are not in my favor. But, we want to look, that's one of the great advantages of not being at odds with everybody, but rather having at least somewhat of an open mind to try to understand why people are thinking the way they are, because then we can connect. And unity is an incredible strength. That is not conformity. That is creating a bigger picture out of many points of view. And it doesn't mean, that somebody's not going to be wrong, or you're not going to be wrong on certain things. We're supposed to, discern truth as best we can. But we can do it in a way that we are angry and rigid and fearful and fighting, or we can do it in a way that we're open, listening, and learning. And it's a very big, I'll try to tell you right now, it will make all the difference in the world in your own personal, emotional experience and your health. You want to be healthy? Stop being afraid of everybody and everything. It'll change everything. I was starting to feel really not well when I was in that standoff place, and yet it gave me so much information once I took a step back and looked at it that I can now use to further the spiritual war against this, to transform the snake energy and to help other people do it. So everything is for the good. And that's another belief that somebody shared it here, but if we can actually integrate it or even allow for it, how could this be for the good? How is it possible that this is for the good? And get a friend, reach out to somebody, get a buddy who's going to help you remember that and help you work with that. Might self-pity be a rudimentary form of self-compassion? No. Self-pity is self-pity. Self-pity holds us in a victim status, and that is the opposite of compassion. Self-pity by its nature tells us that there's something wrong with us, there's something wrong with the world, feel sorry for me because I'm helpless to change it. And that is not compassion, although it could certainly masquerade as compassion. I think there are ways of changes coming. How do we best prepare our inner selves to have the easiest ride through the redemption? I would say learn about the redemption and understand that you have influence, connect as deeply as you can, go vertical. The Rebbe said that many years ago, 29 years ago, that it was time for the redemption, and he prayed that there might be 10 stubborn people who won't give up until it's in everyone's awareness, until it happens, and may there be 1, 2, or 3 who will know what needs to be done and how it should be done. So you have to consider yourself a player. And I can tell you that there's so many negative, I can't tell you that nothing negative is going to happen. I can't tell you that. But I can tell you that so many things that seemed inevitable got bypassed. Like, just look at the Middle East, peace. Is it perfect? Probably not. There are probably some under the table deals that I wouldn't approve of, but overall, it was unpredictable completely. There's so many things that were unpredictable that are happening. And there's, in this spiritual war, the final war of the time of redemption is called Gog Magog, and there are many, many interpretations about what it means, and they probably all have some truth to them, but this seems to be the final phase. And it seems like one of the interpretations that I know of is from Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, where he says that Gog is not actually a person or a country, but it comes from the word Gog, which means roof. And it's connected with the Sukkot holiday, that when we go out into a booth and it has to have no roof, it has to have just branches and wood for the roof with slats in it. You have to be able to see the stars, so you're vulnerable to the heavens. And that's the opposite of having a roof over your head. Having a roof over your head means having a bank account, means having, a secure job, means knowing how to predict the future, means having all your ducks lined up in a row. So the spiritual war can be fought on that level where we're willing to be, why do we build this? For those of you not familiar, why do the Jewish people build these huts, the booths, what is it called? The Feast of Tabernacle? What is it called? These booths, because they represent the clouds of glory that protected the Jewish people, the souls of Israel, in over 40 years wandering in the desert, where there was an absolute protection, heavenly protection, where there was the manna, divine food. The desert is placed deliberately that can't sustain life. And yet there was supernatural protection, and it was meant to be imprinted in the soul and revived now. So we want to lean into that. And that's how we can best prepare ourselves for the waves. Know that you're a player. When you get afraid, do the work. Understand that it's time. Okay, here's another piece of your purpose. Here's another like little skirmish that you can win on behalf of you and everyone. Understand it doesn't take a lot of people. The deeper we go and the deeper we connect, it's like, a lever effect. The deeper you are, the more you can move the entire cosmos with a thought. And there are many other techniques, the learning. When Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wrote the Zohar or spoke the whatever, he said, with this, I can't quote exactly, but with this wisdom, my people can be, or your people will be redeemed with mercy. So learning mystical Torah is massive. Learning it on a deep level. That's what we do in the school. It's massive. It actually, because why? Because it reveals the truth within our minds and hearts and through us in the world without having to get shaken. So we want to become channels for that deeper truth as much as we can. Okay, Melissa says, thank you, Shipra, I love you. Thank you. Blessings to all. With respect to fear, anger, insecurity, this was a question about men. Men don't admit those things so readily. It's an interesting thing about men, and excuse me if I know there were men on the call, maybe there still are. Obviously there are exceptions, and there is a core nature though, and it took me a long time even to learn this, and I still don't know it deeply enough. But men and women do tend to have a different nature, in that when women confess vulnerability, they feel more secure, right? As long as someone who cares is listening to you. When men confess vulnerability, usually they feel less secure. And I don't know if that's programming or nature, but it's fact for the most part. So, okay, somebody asked about personal one-on-one healing or coaching, if I offer that. I don't offer that. I will take this opportunity to preview that starting in January, I'm going to be opening for the first time ever a much more intensive year-long coaching program, very transformational, and coaching and also training in online visibility, in relationships, and in healing. At least that's what I think I'm going to be doing at this point. And I will make available to participants in that program, I will make available probably some kind of coaching. There will be a lot of coaching, group coaching, but I may offer the one-to-one option for participants, but I cannot do that. If I would do one-to-one coaching, that would be my life. What I need to do is teaching and real, heavy duty, or let's say light duty transformation. I feel like that's how I can have the greatest impact. What do you think of the laws of nature changing dramatically in the time of redemption? Like how some say there will be miracles greater than the Exodus from Egypt. Okay, that's a good question. 20 years ago, look where we are. Look what we're at. Look what we're doing right now. I'm staring at this slim metal and glass thing, and I'm seeing you. And we are many thousands of miles apart. Is that a miracle greater than, who would be more surprised? This is not my original question, but who would be more surprised and shocked? You being at the splitting of the sea, or your great-great-grandparents showing up here and watching us do this? So the miracles and wonders are happening, and they're happening in such a way that they seem natural, which is, this, some of you know that this has been branded, the acronym of the year in Hebrew is Teheshnas Plaot Arenu. This is the year that will show you Plaot. Plaot comes from the word Pele. Pele means a wonder. What is a wonder? A wonder is an even deeper level of miracle. And there's more than one definition, but that's the core. That it's an even deeper level of miracle. What's a deeper level of miracle? It's not a suspension of nature, but it's a transformation of nature. So it's a change in the nature of nature. And the fact that is happening faster and faster and faster, and most of the time we're taking it for granted, we're already moving along. So do we need to build vessels for the unexpected? It's happening. If you just align yourself with the process, look for the positive, replay this session when the replay's up, and stop at each point. That would be my suggestion, and write it down. I see some people are already doing that, but stop at each point and write it down, each technique, each point, and write it out for yourself, and choose one or two things every day and focus on those, and you'll be building vessels for the unexpected and the unimaginable, and it's happening. I mean, one of the things that I've heard from multiple sources, I'm not an insider, but I've heard from people who say that, I believe it, is that there are thousands of patents that have been suppressed by big pharma and other corporate interests and governments for healing techniques, medicines, energy, all kinds of technologies that can benefit humanity that have not been released. And, I never expected redemption to look like this. I expected it to be like, but it seems that that God is building those vessels in us so that the miraculous and the godly and the divine will start to feel very natural. And not just from the outside, but our own inner divinity will start to feel very natural and will be who we are, not who we aren't or who we strive to be. And that's really, a deeper level of transformation that we can assist with now. Can self-pity be elevated to self-compassion? Need to think about that for a second. Self-pity. Well, yeah, if you stop feeling sorry for yourself. It can't be elevated just without a moment in between. How I would see doing that is to get angry at the inner snake that's telling you that there's something wrong with you and that life shouldn't be like this and it's unfair and you're a victim. which is always going to keep you stuck to the reality that you hate about yourself or somebody else. There has to be that moment of anger, again, separating from you and the snake energy. As soon as that's achieved, you can go right into self-compassion. But there has to be a break. What is the best way for individual Gentiles to uplift the Jewish people? What a great question. In the sense that we're all in it together, which we are all in it together. It's not a sense, but from the perspective that we are all in it together, I would say very similar things. Participate in the Jewish mission. Anyone can do that. So learn Torah, especially mystical Torah, and keep the commandments that are given to the non-Jewish nations of the world, which, the core 7 commandments that are called the laws of Noah, because everyone's descended from Noah. So it's laws actually of B'nai Noah, of the descendants of Noah. And there are many details. So there are classes on those, but you don't have to stop with those. You can learn about, you can and must learn about the redemption, what it means, do all this work to internalize it, and understand that the Torah is the blueprint for creation, which I'm assuming you do, or you wouldn't ask the question. And then just support that, share that in whatever ways work. So we're all in this, what can any of us do to support and uplift the Jewish people? What can anyone do? Me, you, anyone. And when we ask ourselves those questions, it involves knowing, learning the Torah on this deep level, doing the transformational work, doing the prayer, seeing the redemption coming in, seeing that, bringing that out of that level of koach, bringing that future into reality now by seeing it, by looking for signs of it, by sharing those, by enhancing those and anchoring those in, and be an influencer. This program that I'm going to start, God willing, in January is going to be called Soul Infused Influencer. We're all influencers. And we have a choice whether to empower ourselves as influencers and really grab the wheel of the bus, and start to bring it safely, more and more safely home. Scenic, beautiful scenic route, not the bumpy scenic route. Okay, does Magog mean no roof? No. Gog means roof. Gog means roof, and it's the same consonants as Gog. It's just an interpretation based on the inner meaning of the word. Magog could mean from the country of Gog, or it could be the name of a person. There's a lot of different. There are a lot of different commentaries on that, and I think that the reason that nobody knows for sure, or it's not revealed for sure, I think when things in the Torah when there are many, many opinions, I think it's partly because there's a bigger picture and many things could be happening in the same space on different levels. But I think it's also sometimes because when it comes to prophecy or anything, but when it comes to prophecy, the rules of prophecy are that a positive prophecy must come true literally. A negative prophecy must have its effect, but it doesn't have to come true literally. So if we can fulfill the effect of the prophecy through our own happy, intentions and actions, rather than wait for it to shake us out of our slumber, then there's no more need for it, which is, I think people are waking up, and I think things are happening. And I think the fact that the Torah, the mystical Torah, the Hasidus Kabbalah, has been disseminated as the Zohar prophesizes, that in the 6th century of the 6th, starting in the 6th century of the 6th millennium in the Hebrew calendar, the wellsprings of divine knowledge and wisdom will open up, as together with the wellsprings of earthly wisdom, preparing the world for the 7th millennium, which is the millennia of the redeemed world. So it's over, resurrection of the dead, divinity revealed, and that's just the starting point. We're gonna have a lot of fun. So that's happening so big time, and just like Shimon Bar Yochai said, with this wisdom, the people can be redeemed in mercy. So I think that's happening. I think one of the reasons why can happen a lot more. And for everybody, there's way too much suffering. But what if people have suffered enough already? So we can, in other words, again, we can change the way that things happen, the way that we move toward the goal, by deliberately absorbing that divine knowledge from the Torah and doing the work to align with it in our hearts and in our bodies and our personal beings. And that's the war of Gog. That's the war of Gog and Magog. That's one way to fight that war, by understanding that everything is God and doing whatever, align yourself with that to change your consciousness. That's through the Torah. And you change your heart, if you change your consciousness deeply enough, it will change your emotions automatically. But then where it doesn't, you can do these kinds of techniques that will clear your channels more and more and more. So your soul has a free flow. Okay. I see there are more questions, but we're at 90 minutes. So I think I'm going to end, as much as it's not against my nature not to answer all the, I want to answer all the questions that I can. Okay, you guys, so we'll hopefully we'll do it again. Thank you so much for participating. And if you appreciate decoding current events, the reason that I'm doing it, I have plenty of other things to do last time and this time is, and in future times, because I would like to make a difference. I want to be one of those who, is steering the bus the best way, including the bus right here. So the more the merrier. So if you appreciate it, if you have friends, students, family who would appreciate it, just have them sign up for this series, and all the replays will be on the website. And see you next time. Lots of love. Bye-bye.